Everyone, welcome back. My name is Amanda Jane. I am a consultant for entrepreneurs and organizations who are seeking to incorporate more joy and well-being and creativity into their change-making initiatives. And so today I want to talk about this story of certainty. This week I've been focusing a lot of my content on the ways we get stuck in our heads and all of the challenges and havoc that can cause. So when we're thinking about this story of certainty, right, uh, it's it's this phenomenon that maybe it's not the phenomenon, but basically when we get stuck in our heads, when we overthink, overanalyze, and ultimately mindfuck ourselves to the point of panic, self-sabotage, or stagnancy, it's our brains seeking certainty, right? So we are not neurologically wired to tolerate uncertainty. We do not handle uncertainty well. This is part of our survival programming and risk assessment, right? We're trying to establish a sense of safety so that we can find the food that we need to have. We can take care of our loved ones. We know that the clan or the tribe or the people, the community is safe, right? And so our brains are constantly asking, is this environment safe? And if it's not safe, can I adapt to it? Is there something that I can do to make the environment safe or make myself safe in this environment? And if I can't adapt to it, so if I can't do something to make myself safe or the environment safe, can I leave and go somewhere else? What do I need to do? Where do I need to go? What direction do I need to head in? Right? And so this risk assessment is like a news ticker that operates in the background of our day-to-day life, right? It's like that little, like the sort of the subtext that's always like reeling through at the back of our brains, asking these questions. So it's very instinctual to our process. When we feel certain and we feel safe, it chills the fuck out, right? So that constant questioning or assessment of the environment calms down or sort of like quiets down. It's not so loud. It's not occupying so much mental energy and space when we are safe. When we know, when the answer to that question of is this environment safe consistently is yes, right? So when we can consistently say yes, our environment is safe, our nervous system calms down and allows us to have space and energy to focus on other things. When our environment is not safe, that drives us into a state of nervous system arousal where now we're trying to figure out what do we need to be safe. And that's activating the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses, our need to adapt, and constantly assess the situation until we can establish a sense of safety. Certainty and safety are inextricably linked when it comes to our bodies and the way that our brains process those feelings and like concepts, right? So in order for us to have the bandwidth to do all of the different things that we want or need to do to function, especially in modern society, the more we can feel safe, the easier that becomes, right? The more room we have to do that. And so it creates more bandwidth. So the reality is, though, certainty is an illusion, right? There are very few things that we can be certain about in reality. We can trust that the probability is high that our home will be there tomorrow, but it's not necessarily a guarantee, right? And that probability starts to dip if there's an imminent threat of natural disaster, for example, whether that's from a forest fire, tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever, right? The only thing certain about natural disasters is that they can and will happen, but we can never be truly certain about when. So, right, so this is very stressful, right? It's like all of a sudden, all of these things that maybe I take for granted, right? I take as certain, I take as something that is reliable and consistent. There's always a possibility that it might not be there. The lower the probability is that that will go away, the safer we feel, right? And so, again, when we're thinking about this story of certainty, it's understanding that most of the decisions and the environments that we're navigating as leaders, as business owners, as managers of people and teams and staff and families and communities, whatever the case may be, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think this is also something that the pandemic exposed, that recent history has been forcing us to confront, is things that as society is shifting and changing, right? As we're entering this new millennium and this new century, 2.5 decades in, structures are shifting, systems are changing. What used to work is no longer the most constructive or the most helpful. And we can all agree that systems are broken, that change is needed. Or I would say most of us can agree that that's a need. But what that looks like or what the future holds is uncertain. None of us know for sure what the best option would be. We can make educated guesses. There's tons of other creators and professionals and consultants that you can go to who have, who seem to know. But I hold all of that with a grain of salt, because there's no way we can know for sure, because there's so many variables involved. So the way that I approach this is, what we know for certain is that we need to increase our tolerance for uncertainty. We need to find ways of coping with the challenges that come with making decisions and changing institutions and systems and structures in the face of uncertainty. There's a certain level of risk involved. There are certain leaps that we're just going to have to make with the information that's available to us, which means it might not be the most perfect decision. It might not be the most perfect choice. Sometimes it might be the wrong thing. But the point is we have to move. We have to do the best with what we have. And so part of what I'm trying to sort of speak to and address this week with this whole concept of getting stuck in your head and navigating analysis paralysis or perfectionism, or all of these fears that come with needing to lead and be bold and take risks and initiate change, when that might feel really overwhelming to our nervous systems, or that might feel really uncomfortable, or even undesirable, right? Because maybe you liked the way things were working and you didn't want them to have to change, or you don't think they need to change. But as everything else shifts around you or around us, that change is inevitable. And so we're in a place where we really need to learn how to build this tolerance for not having all the answers and jumping anyway, right? And taking that leap anyway, making that move, taking that step forward, choosing a path, even if you don't know exactly where it's going to lead you, or if you don't know if that's the exact right path to get you to where you are headed, right? So, unfortunately, there is no yellow brick road for us to follow, right? So, we just have to create it all on our own. And so, anyway, so yeah, so when we're thinking about this story of certainty, it's really acknowledging that on many levels, certainty is an illusion, and it comes from our biological, sociological, cultural need for safety. And what that safety looks like is going to vary for you. What feels normal, what feels safe, is going to really depend on your own background and upbringing. And so there's a lot of variation within this, but we can work to create a sense of safety in our environments, in our communities, in our spaces, in our workplaces as best we can. And we really need to strengthen the skills and the muscles, not just for ourselves, but for the people that we lead or are responsible for or are taking care of or providing for, to tolerate uncertainty as well, to navigate that risk, to hold space for making imperfect decisions or making incomplete decisions or making decisions with incomplete information, right? And so there are some people who already have this skill and are like really good at it, right? And that's great. And maybe those are people that you want on your team if that's something that you really struggle with. Maybe those are people that you want or need to learn from if you have access to them as coaches or mentors or whoever. And we cannot rely solely on those individuals. We need to do some of that work ourselves. We need to build that skill, build that muscle up for ourselves as best we can, so that you know how to navigate those situations when you're confronted with them, and that it doesn't become this moment of severe stress and anxiety. It doesn't stop you in your tracks, and it doesn't prevent you and your initiatives and your organizations from progressing or evolving or adapting in the ways that they need to continue to thrive and grow into, like, towards your vision, right? Into this wonderful thing that you know it can be, right? So there's a bit of a tension or a paradox here of having to hold these two things to be true. One is acknowledging the need for our brains and our bodies to feel a sense of certainty from a place of safety, and accepting the reality that certainty is not guaranteed, and we're often going to find ourselves in positions where uncertainty is the norm. We don't know, and we might not have access or the ability to know in any reasonable amount of time before we need to make a decision. So I leave you with that. Lots to think about, lots to ponder. Be patient with yourself. Later this week on my blog and on my other social media, I'll be posting a couple of strategies that I have found helpful in building this muscle, building up this tolerance for uncertainty. And these are meant to complement whatever mindfulness practice you already utilize. I think each of us engages in mindfulness in different ways, or what we each need for our nervous systems and for our brains to be able to hear and integrate this information, or calm down, or sort of stop working in overdrive might be a little different. Some things are going to work for others that don't work for other people, right? So I don't like to be too prescriptive or overgeneral. So the strategies that I'm sharing later this week are really meant to um, complement whichever methodology you prefer or whatever works for you. So again, they're always suggestions, and yeah, if I would love to hear in the comments, you know, what your thoughts are. If any of this is resonating with you, let me know, and I will catch you on the flip side.